The mic is on. All right. Can you hear it for the live? I saw you talk loud. All right. Well, good evening. Thank you all for being here. We are small in numbers, but we're hoping that there are others coming through traffic. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for being patient with our time. We wanted to give it a little bit longer to get started because there was an accident when we first arrived. So thank you for your patience. I am Dr. Shavonna Coakley, the Executive Director of School Support with the Charleston County School District. And I welcome you and greet you on behalf of our superintendent, Mrs. Anita Huggins. To those who are on Zoom, I'm going to ask that you bear with me because I don't know what I'm doing about Zoom and in person. So thank you for your time as well. We welcome you on behalf of our superintendent. So tonight, we are launching our second SPaCE event, our Students, Parents, and Community Engagement Meeting, with the hopes of making sure that we bring resources that you may not be aware of that exist within our district. But before we do that, let's do a recap of what occurred at our first SPaCE event. So at our first SPaCE event, we did a round of question and answers. We had some presenters that came about, and one of those presenters was Miss Daniels, who's in the back of the room, that discussed what is school support and how do you get supports. The second presenter that we had was our transportation and security team that came and discussed a lot of things around the safety and security within CCSD and what you can expect. When you go onto the CCSD website, you will see all of the questions that were asked at the end of that first round, and we provided the responses. Miss Ash, who's sitting in front of us, is the individual who has posted those questions and answers. So if you see something or if you don't see a question that was posed in the first session and you want for us to make sure that we capture it, please be sure that we let Miss Ash know. We will do the same after tonight's meeting. We will make sure that we capture questions and answers, and then we will post in full transparency about what those responses are. One of the other pieces that I want to make sure that I spotlight was that we launched our SPaCE Advisory Committee meeting applications where we were searching for individuals to join that advisory panel. We want you all to know that we have not forgotten about the advisory panel. The applications that came in were abundant. We had over 40 somewhat applicants to come in. However, some of the applications really were about those who had already had a platform. So there's an existing platform for those individuals who applied. We are going to look at what we're really asking for and be a little bit more transparent of what we're asking. So if you are interested or if you know those who don't already have a voice within CCSD, or maybe they're really active elsewhere, but they're not really active within Charleston County School District, we're asking that you invite them to be a part of the cabinet, that advisory panel for SPaCE. If you yourself may be interested in applying in the future, definitely have a talk with us about that. Again, we're looking for individuals who already don't have a platform, or maybe they don't come to the meetings right now, but they would like to learn more about Charleston County School District. Please let us know. All right, so let's jump into. We're going to reconnect. Okay, we're reconnecting. Thank you, Ms. Dane. Thank you. So let's go and remind us of our mission for CCSD. If you've ever watched any of the board meetings or attended any of our meetings, you know that there are 3 pillars. So we talk about rigorous grade level instruction, high quality teachers and leaders in all schools, and then pillar 3, which is my favorite, those wraparound services. So tonight, that is going to be our focus. You have the agenda, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of those wraparound services that are available within the Charleston County School District for your scholars, your families, or any other neighborhood children or families that you may be taking this information back to. So we also have 3 goals: literacy, algebra readiness, achievement, and college and career readiness. Those wraparound services that we provide within CCSD is going to help our scholars be college and career ready. So make sure that you put your listening ears on, ask those questions, and when it's time for us to engage with those at our table, or if we ask you to move to another table because you might be sitting by yourself right now, we want you to just get up and go to another table so we can engage and have some really, really good conversations. I'm going to pause right here and ask the audience, especially if you were here at the last meeting, is there anything that you were hoping I would open up and say that I have not said? And Ms. Ash, if there's something going on in that waiting room, please let me know. I don't want to miss anyone's question or suggestion. All right, so moving right along. Our first group that's coming up is our student support services. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be able to do the work in Department of School Support without this team. So I'm going to bring up the amazing Mrs. Lisa Allison, who is the Executive Director of Student Support Services.
Thank you. The feeling is 100% mutual. Our 2 departments work very closely together to support our students and our families. So I'm here to speak on the behalf of Student Support Services. If you are a member of Student Support Services team out here in the audience or right outside, could you just raise your hand so people know who you are? All right, we've got some. We've got people out in the hallway. We've got a table out there. Mr. Donald over here. We've got Miss Joyner. Miss Kanika Manigo is off with students. And so Miss Ela Hudson's out there. So we've got a lot of representation here tonight. So feel free to, they may even be wearing their shirts. Stop them and ask them anything about our department. But actually, before we get too much into the content of our department and what we do, we'd like to offer a connection activity. Those in our department and the Department of School Support really believe strongly that connection before content is critical to learning in any environment for any age, students, adults, everyone. So in honor of Black History Month this month, we have a few conversation starters for you. Thank you, Dr. C, about teeing up you might need to move, because we would like to have some conversation with another person. And so we've given you 2 prompts here, and we're just going to take 2 minutes to just turn and talk. You've got 2 prompts, and you can answer both of them or choose one. One is, if you could have dinner with any African-American historical figure, who would it be and why? And or, if you like music, Grammys were just on last week, right? I love the Grammys. All right. So Lauryn Hill won a Grammy Award in 1999. How could it be that long ago? We are not that old, people. I feel like it was just yesterday. For the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, of course. And so discuss, what is your favorite album by a Black artist and why? So you can do 1 or 2 prompts. Move your bodies if you need to. Now. And I will set my timer for 2 minutes, and then we'll come back together. We might have some share out.
I don't even know who this is.
Well, they discuss something else and share, but
I'm still stuck in.
ooh, my battery's about to die. That's awesome.
What did she say?
Y'all, I'm not leaving here. I'm just getting my power cord. Okay, we'll give you about 30 more seconds. Wrap up your conversation. All right, let's hope this reaches.
You have dinner with them.
Is there enough space up there? You can drag.
We're so close. Okay, we're gonna. All right, we're gonna come together in 3, 2, 1. Okay, yes. Let's do a few share outs. We'll start over here on this side of the room, table all the way to the wall. Anything that came out of your conversation that you'd like to share in either prompt? Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Any other sharing out from over here? All right. Thank you. Okay. How about this table right here?
Maya Angelou.
Okay.
Why? Because her quote inspired me.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else you want this table wants to share? Thank you. All right. How about in the back?
We're also having dinner with Maya Angelou.
All right. So y'all can do one big family table.
And we love Marvin Gaye and Whitney Houston.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
I know who they are.
So we selected somebody of influence right now, like just having a Oprah Winfrey at the table and just leading and believing for her. And then we have a scientist in the room, so definitely having conversations with anyone of African American history that broke the mold, that actually made it.
Thank you for sharing. All right. How about right here?
Well, the person who I wanted to have dinner with, he's already had dinner with them.
Oh, who was it?
Ben Carson.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
And I know very little about music, and she showed me Tracy Chapman, and wow, fantastic.
Yeah,
That
right.
was awesome. You know, but I guess sitting down and spending an evening with Ben Carson and hearing about his childhood and how he made decisions about what he wanted to do and growing up, especially with his mom, their relationship. That was profound.
Talk later about that. That sounds great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. How about Jack?
I guess I'll read out for us. It was Maya Angelou and Jesus Christ, and the work of music was actually Anthony Hamilton and Anita Baker and John Legend.
Okay, cool. Love it. Maya Angelou was a big winner in this room. I think that is amazing. I love that. I don't think I've ever had where we've had so many in common. And I like that for Whippy because she's really met everyone. So you're getting a lot for the one dinner, right?
right.
Okay, well, let's, has everyone had a chance to share that wanted to share, first of all? All right, let's reflect on that. Why do you think that might be a good practice to have before you start with content? Think of me like a teacher in your child's classroom or presenting out about why is an activity like that. What does that do for us in this room?
It's the ice.
Oh, there's a live stream? Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. Sorry. Why might we do an activity like that? A connection before content activity.
Break the ice. It helps to make the room connect with one another.
Helps break the ice and helps the room connect. Thank you, sir. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
It reminds us that we're active participants, not just sitting here listening to the teacher, but we're participating in learning.
That's right. You're part of it. We're doing this together. In restorative practices, we call that with. Okay, we're doing that with each other together. Any other benefits? What does that give me as the teacher, the instructor, the person who's in front of this beautiful group? Feedback, okay.
We're focusing on you because you focused on us.
Oh, so there's an investment there both ways. Now we're engaged together. We're truly in this together. It also helps me understand, I call it the vibe of the room, the energy level, which way I may need to direct my energy. If I see people like not really wanting to share or shy, I might change things up. I might move people around. I might make this a smaller group or spread it out. Okay, so it's giving everybody a little bit of something to have that connection before the content. All right, so we believe in that strongly, and so we offer that to you as well. Okay, this is our leadership team and student support services. We have amazing leaders in our group, so much knowledge and expertise in our team, and they support so many people out in the schools, and we're just really proud to have everyone in our team. This is our mission statement. I will read it for the live stream and for you all in the room. Student support services exist to create a climate of advocacy that is conducive to providing equitable access, resources, and supports for all students within an ecosystem of their school, family, and community in order to positively impact student success. Okay, I'd like to call out 3 words, emphasize 3 words in this mission statement. You be thinking about the 3 that I might call out and see if you're right, okay? The first one is advocacy. Did anyone think about advocacy when they saw that mission statement? Did that jump out to you? Okay, so advocacy, working on behalf of students and families to access supports and services and navigate what can be a really tricky system, especially for mental health and wellness. It can be very confusing, that system of care. And so being advocates to pave the way to make that easier, because we recognize it's really challenging. All right, the second is equitable. Raise your hand if you were thinking I might say equitable. All right, very good. This audience is awesome. I just love y'all. You're great. People at home, you're missing out. Okay. So equitable, meaning people don't get the same things. They get the things they need. And we measure our resources based on need. And that works within our team, and that also works as we're out in schools, and we're helping to support teams in schools. And the last one is ecosystem. Did anyone have ecosystem? Thank you, Ms. Brown. Meaning that we recognize that our young people are part of a whole. They're part of a family. They're part of a community. So when we support students, when we say student support services, we recognize that that means we're supporting their ecosystem, the things that surround them. And so that is all part of our mission statement. So as Dr. Coakley shared, the zoom out for our district priorities, we do work across all 3 pillars to support every child, but really focus in that wraparound services or pillar number 3. All right, so you see a triangle there to the right of the pillars. That represents our levels of support. Remember, we said equitable, so people get what they need, right? So there are some things that everybody needs. Think of that as fluoride in the water, right? Everybody has fluoride in the water to help our teeth. In schools, there's something that everybody needs. Everybody needs to feel safe in a building, right? That's a universal. That's that green on the bottom. Cared for. If you're hungry, we need food. We need the basics, right? We need to feel really physically safe, and we need to feel psychologically safe. So that's a universal support as well. That could be expectations. How do we walk in the hallway? How do we do dismissal? Who does car rider line here? Anybody in the room? How do we do car rider line, right? If we need expectations for that. Everybody needs to know. Okay, things like that. That also includes instruction, of course. So instruction on life skills, social skills, in addition to our math, reading, writing skills. Things aligned to that profile of a South Carolina graduate. Things that will help with college and career readiness skills. And then we move into that yellow zone, or that little bit more, that targeted support, small group counseling, small group skill building, mentoring, check in, check out. We call that checking in with an adult, just that little bit of extra love and care. All right. And then that red tip of the triangle would be those intensive support services. That could be the child, that could be the family. That can include services within a school building, or those can also include services with community-based organizations. And our department with others helps people access that too. So the pillars 1 and 2, rigorous grade level instruction and high quality teachers and leaders, we support through our professional development, our coaching of teachers and principals, so that we can help make sure that our environments our students are in are safe and supportive. So our department also dials into priorities within wraparound services of restorative practices. I mentioned that earlier. And then climate and culture. So just real briefly, if you visit our table in the hallway, you can find out more information about some of these things as well. And we'll talk to you about those. But restorative practices, raise your hand if you know anything about restorative practices. I know some in this room know a lot about restorative practices. Okay, well, I could talk all day. In fact, we could train a whole week on restorative practices, and I would invite you all to that. But in the interest of time, the shorthand, it's the social science of relationships. It's going back to that activity we did in the beginning. Human being to human being connection. When you are connected and you are invested, it feels good, right? And when you feel good, it's easier to learn. It's easier to do your best. People do their best when they feel a part of things and when they feel connected to things. So we try to offer that training as much as we can. We have whole schools who have adopted the whole approach to restorative practices. And at the foundation of that is relationships. We build relationships and then we repair relationships, because there's always going to be conflict, right? I see a family over here. Do y'all ever have some conflict in your family? Maybe sometimes. I know we do in mine. Got a boy and a girl, and sometimes we need to repair some things between them. So you build it up and then you repair when that conflict happens, because it's going to happen. It always does, but we can fix it. And then climate and culture is that social and educational environment that we talked about at school, making sure it's positive, it's warm, it's inviting, and it supports learning and growth in all areas. And then those wraparound services or supports that, again, are that whole ecosystem, and that can include specialized services. So you'll hear from Ms. Bell in a little bit about special education services and Child Find. We connect to that through members of our team. Also community-based resources and, again, family supports, navigating those tricky systems of healthcare and wellness. All right, this is a visual representation of all the things in our department. As you can see, it's very colorful. Some of those reflect people and some reflect strategies. You'll notice a lot of what we call the helpers in our department. That's kind of our shorthand. But specifically, who are they? So we have school counselors, school psychologists, social workers, climate coaches. They work with teams to help support that school environment, behavior specialists and clinical counselors, and mental health and wellness coaches. Any questions about any of these titles or what they might do, their roles in a school? And I'd be happy to answer that, because some of these may be familiar to you, some of them may not be.
Social workers,
Yes, sir.
how would they interact within the school?
That's a great question. So we have we have a social worker in the group. Okay, so we love our social workers. They do so much to support our families and our students. That can include direct student support, working on skills. That can include helping families navigate systems of support outside of the school building, and including even some parenting resources. Debbie, why don't you speak to some things of your job that you do?
So really, it looks a little bit different depending on the building and the needs in the building, but ultimately we're here to provide resources and supports to students and families, either connecting within the building or to community agencies outside of the building. And that can range from mental health and emotional support to basic needs and connecting to agencies and services to help with whatever struggles and barriers that you're facing in the community.
Thank you.
Very small nutshell.
What about
Thank
the area
you.
of
Yes.
homelessness, where you have students
Yes, absolutely.
or couch hopping, kind of.
Yes, and we do have partners in the community. Navigation Center is one community partner that we have that works specifically to help with families who may be experiencing some homelessness, whether that's temporary or more of a chronic condition. And so our social workers are definitely a key people in our buildings to help support families, whatever the need may be.
When does the boundary between the school and then the outside community social workers, how does that relationship work? I mean,
Go ahead,
I would
Megan.
just add to that, I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's a confusion. That we kind of like reference to our social work team as community liaisons or support, so they are all licensed clinical social workers in the state of South Carolina. But a lot of time community are coming through our agencies like Department of Social Services are not necessarily licensed social workers. So we partner with those agencies because at the end of the day, it is about that active problem solving to try to put supports in place to help families navigate through any of those barriers or challenges. But we partner with those agencies. We aren't, part of DSS. All of our social workers are employed with Charleston County School District and then assigned either fully embedded in schools or have a small caseload of schools and school assignments. And I was add with the homelessness that we do also partner directly with our McKinney-Vento department in Charleston County. So again, a lot of times we're fielding those referrals either to their department or they may say, hey, we've done this immediate support, but we need you to kind of case manage and support this family with some longer term stability or some uniforms or food. And so again, a lot of those partnerships either internally or with outside agencies and partners.
And I'll just say too, and we can talk later afterwards because I want to make sure I cover everything, but I'm looking at Ms. Drayton about attendance too, like helping students get to school and helping students stay in school. So those are two big pillars of our department, and social workers are key helpers in that, as are the other members of our team as well. So helping families get to school and helping students stay in school.
And if I could just add, when we talk about those boundaries, one of the important pieces to add is that our goal in Charleston County is try to resolve concerns within the group, not necessarily report out. If it gets to that point, of course, we're mandated reporters, but I know where your question is asking, but we try to resolve those concerns within all of the resources that we have within this building. Like we also have a constituent board member inside the audience, and she'll be able to tell you, like, you guys start talking about how do we get resources to children before it actually funnels to something outside of our control. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
A lot of this is based on funding also. How are you funded so that so these services that are being provided aren't lost?
Yes, that is a great question. So, a variety of funding sources. We have our general operating fund, of course, and then we do have special revenues. Some of those include ESSER funds, Title IV funds. We have a grant within our department, the Project Prevent grant, which heavily supports 7 schools in North Charleston. And so we have a variety of funding sources designed to help support both our internal salaries of staff as well as the contracts with our external partners. And we do also take advantage of some state funding formulas for reimbursement of services too. So it's like a puzzle that we try to fit all together. So, but please, anyone who wants to advocate for more funding for student supports, we would appreciate that. Thank you. Some of the programs and services we touched on a little bit already, but we also support our students who need homebound services, substance use. I mentioned the Project Prevent grant, CPI's Crisis Prevention Institute. So helping to de-escalate, mitigate, reduce behaviors before they escalate and get students in a place where we don't want them to be as staff, as families, right? So we're heavy in the prevention and early intervention. within this department. And that also includes social emotional learning, including bullying. Our school counselors help so much when it comes to our skill building and instructional lessons, and then helping identify where we see bullying. I know that is a large concern from families, both on the small scale and the larger scale of bullying, and identifying and reporting and helping to make sure we have a plan to reduce any instances of bullying. Child Find, Miss Bell is going to speak to later, so I'm not going to get into that, but our school psychologists specifically do help with our evaluation for special education services. And then our team is boots on the ground. If there's a crisis, if there's a need for a risk assessment, so if someone is saying that they want to harm themselves or harm others, we're directly involved. Okay, so there's a lot of helpers out in the schools taking care of your children. These are some of the community partnerships. We talked about some, but we wanted to illustrate. Charleston Dorchester Department of Mental Health. We have a representative in the room, Ms. Mike Lant. We partner with them as well as communities and schools, Justice Works, SPaCE. These are all people in the community who are supporting students in the buildings. And we piece together that, remember, it's equitable, so based on need, right? So we're looking at need and we're looking at matching that need to the supports that we have available, both internal and external. So some of the ones on the left, I like to say, I've said this to the board as well. These are our money. This requires some money. All right. To your point, sir. Thank you for advocating for that funding. I appreciate you. It sounds like you've got some friends in high places, so we'll take it. And then collaborative partnerships. And that requires no money. That just requires some good relationship building, memorandums of understanding so that they can come in the building and work with students. And you'll see some of the big ones in our community, right? So we're really proud to work hand in hand with them. All right, so the last thing, I'm closing in on my time. Oh, was there a question? I'm sorry, Debbie, yes.
I just, going back to the partnerships and the question about the boundaries.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that a lot of our working with families is working side by side to access all the partnerships, and that's with permission of families.
Yes.
And I know we talked about kind of the bigger agencies, but the social workers in a lot of the buildings are sort of the hub for the resources. Social workers and parent advocates work very closely together, so that's where the boundary with permission of the family is to help access all of these different agencies. So that's where I just wanted to jump in on that because it's a positive boundary too.
Thank you. Right, because I mean, you might look at this list and say, I don't know if I need any of those. What do they do exactly? Or I have something with my family, my child, I need help. I don't know where to go. And so it's so nice to have someone who can say, okay, there is support for that. We can connect you to this. There's always an answer. There's always a place. There's always support. It may look differently for every family based on situations, but we can always find something to help. I'm confident anyway. And our team is as well. We believe that. So I'm going to leave you with just some pictures of resources for families. Child Mind Institute is a really great resource. Lots of videos on there about child development and support. And then the Pyramid Model Consortium is really exciting. CCSD is a partner in the consortium, and it starts with it's our young students, so our preschoolers, and it's all about building great supportive environments and relationships, and again, trying to prevent and intervene early with our young students so that we don't get in a cycle of behavior at school, right? So we want to make sure kids love coming to school, have fun at school, and understand the expectations at school. And then that's done within a warm and supportive environment. So that's another great resource for families there. And then PBIS, does anyone know what PBIS stands for in the room? Other than our people who really know, like, anyone want to shout it out? Doesn't matter where it comes from. Positive behavior intervention supports. All right, good, excellent, good job. We got some stickers outside. We'll get you some stickers and pens and all the things. So there's some really great, like you can look up any topic on this site, PBS World, and it'll give you suggestions, having difficulty paying attention, when you're trying to do your homework, something like that, even something like that. All right. Or if you're feeling anxious about something and worried about something, like some strategies for parents and students. So we'll leave you with that. And then I don't want to take up too much of Miss Bell's time. Again, we will be available outside for questions, but if there's any, maybe one question for the good of the group, we could probably take that.
And don't forget, we're gonna have an engage card as soon as the presenters present. You
Check.
guys are gonna be able to have turn table talk with each other, but we have some questions. Even the ones that you still wanna ask, we'll be able to make a list and generate from there. So next up is going to be Miss Bell, who is with the Department of Exceptional Children. And she's going to be able to provide you all with some information about what students who might need additional support outside of what you just saw Miss Allison present. So Miss Bell's office is the other office that I have to work with hand in hand when we're really talking about what other levels of services do we need to look at for students if their current school placement isn't the right placement for them. So Miss Bell, please come on forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be with you all tonight. And thanks so much for inviting us to this wonderful event. And as Dr. Coakley said, I do have the honor and privilege of being able to work with both Ms. Allison and Dr. Coakley's departments very closely. As Dr. Coakley introduced, I'm Sherry Bell, and I'm the Assistant Executive Director for the Department of Exceptional Children. Our Executive Director is Beverly Holt-Pilkey, and our Director is Elizabeth Young, and I have the honor of representing our department tonight. So as Dr. Coakley explained, I am going to give a brief overview of just one small piece of our Department of Exceptional Children. And when I say exceptional children, we mean special education. So exceptional children is, a fancier word, I guess, but we think that all children are exceptional, right? And we prefer to say that rather than, special needs. And the piece that I want to specifically focus on tonight is child find. So we have an obligation under the law, and there's a federal law called IDEA. And what that stands for is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. We have an obligation to locate children who may have special needs or exceptionalities and potentially help determine if they're eligible for any sort of services through that federal law, IDEA. And so what we want to focus on tonight, rather than talking about what happens after they're identified, is what happens before if you suspect a disability, and what are tips and strategies that you can do as parents to work with your students and to identify if there might be a suspected disability. And so I'm going to Dr. Coakley and Miss Allison both talked a little bit about our rigorous grade level instruction and high quality teachers and wraparound services. So I'm going to skip through that for the sake of time tonight. But so we're going to talk first about prevention and early intervention strategies, indicators of possible disabilities, what to look for, the child find process as a whole and what that involves, and then share some resources, and then Q&A hopefully later when we have the opportunity to engage. This is just a little graphic for everyone's benefit as a resource that shows what the optimal times to learn are for these specific skills that students for learning numbers and social skills and symbols. And then there's a link there that really is very helpful and beneficial to as a resource to look at the milestones. Also, if you have a phone, there's a QR code. And we also have brochures and pamphlets out there for parents that you can click on this, and it will tell you what are the developmental milestones for children, at what age should they be learning and developing specific skills. There's also some great activities there, and there's some checklists and also photos and videos from milestones for ages 2 months through 5 years. And then, first of all, we're going to talk about some prevention strategies, and specifically with creating structure and consistency with your child as a parent, what's responsive and relational communication, and setting expectations and addressing behavior. So what does creating structure and being consistent look like? I'm sure that probably rather than me standing up here and telling you all this, you can probably tell me yourselves as a parent. You are the experts. So when we think about creating structure and being consistent, those are skills necessary for students to enable them to be ready for learning when they come to us in school, right? So one of the tips and strategies that you can use is foster independence when you can. Allow your child to become or to be independent and not to look to you to do everything for them. Find joy in routines shared with your child and use transition cues to signal what is next. Many times we find our kids who come to us in the school system, the behavior meltdowns that we have. Behavior is what? A form of what? Can anybody answer? All behavior is a form of communication. So if a child doesn't know what's going to happen, then many times rather than communicating, you're upsetting me because I don't know what to expect, you're going to see that behavior happen. And so using transition cues to signal what is next, communicating with them, helping them to really understand and expect what happens next, and respond when a child engages, but teach interruption routines as well. So we have to teach them to be prepared for the real world, right? And to know that, we can have the structure and we can have the routines, but they also need to know how to respond when things don't always go the way we expect. Building relationships and being responsive. Building relationships is my favorite, right? Because we have to teach our children and adults to have empathy for others. And they learn through experience, and we model that for them, right? They're watching every move you make. And so we have to always model and help them to learn through experiences that we're providing for them. Talking all the time about what you and your child are doing. If you go to the grocery store, if you're making your shopping list, talking to your child about that and helping them learn to categorize. Okay, here's your shopping list. Here are the fruits. Here are the vegetables. Help me put these into categories and help me as the parent to go shopping and what are the prices and talking about all of that. Respond when a child engages you, but teach interruption routines as well. That was the same thing that we put in the other one. That's important. Set expectations and address behavior. Give clear directions that tells the child what to do. So many of our students with behavioral issues in the school, that's a response to that. They aren't exactly clear about the directions that are being provided. And so they might have those behavior meltdowns. And so we have to make sure that we're communicating clearly and concisely and the expectations are understood easily. Praise compliance when they're following directions, when they're doing what is being asked of them. Great job, and not just great job, but great job. I like the way that you followed my direction. I like that we went to the grocery store and that you helped me and that your behavior was great in the grocery store, and explain what you liked about their behavior. Be consistent again and learn your child's emotional signals. In the school district, that is so important for us, and that is what we are charged with, is really being proactive and learning what that child responds to and what might be a trigger that's going to upset that child and keep that child from being successful in the educational setting. And we rely on parents to share that information with us. That is so important for there to be the two-way communication. My child responds well to this, but my child doesn't respond well to this. It takes a village, right? It takes all of us to help them to be successful in education. Some indicators of possible disabilities is not visually following people and movement, not responding to sounds. If it could be that your child has a hearing loss and their hearing needs to be screened, not communicating for wanted, needed items, not standing while being supported by age 1. That's their gross motor skills, not using speech to communicate by age 2, speech and language skills. I was a speech language pathologist before I got into leadership in special education, not playing with other children by age 3. So, if you see that your child is playing by him or herself, not wanting to engage with other children, that could be a sign too that we need to look at some things. So how do you make a referral if you suspect that your child might have a disability or just some learning delays? We do have a community child find program. Our child find program for preschool children is actually located in West Ashley. And we have the number there that the parent would call. The way that works is we have many children who, for whatever reason, were identified before age 3. It might be that you had a child that was premature and they had some developmental issues and they received birth to age 3 services through early intervention services. Well, what happens there is if a child's identified that early, then it might be that they need to continue those services. And we have a relationship with our early intervention partners through BabyNet and a lot of our other early intervention providers. And we can do a transition. Once they reach their 3rd birthday, then they can be transitioned to us if they're eligible for an IEP. So we serve in special education students who are ages 3 up to 21. But if they do not have the IEP yet and you suspect that disability, for preschool, you can call this number and we'll do a child find intake and take that information and schedule an evaluation. Evaluations are free from the public school system for ages 3 to 21. So that evaluation would occur at our community child find office, which is located on Wapu Road. And we have occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. Our school psychologist team is located there. And we do the observation right there on hand. And then after we do the screening activity and the parent survey, then we schedule that special ed referral meeting to discuss what the evaluation might look like. And that evaluation process basically is a time for us just to sit and talk with the parent, for the parent to share the concerns. What are you concerned about? What do you think might be the reason for the delays, or what delays are you seeing? If the team decides to go on further with an evaluation, then we ask the parent to give us consent. Of course, we can't do an evaluation without parental consent. The evaluation has to be completed within 60 days of parental consent. And then once that evaluation is completed, we have a meeting to determine to review the evaluation results and determine that if the child is eligible for services. If they're eligible, then we have the parent give us consent and we provide services after the IEP is developed. And IEP stands for Individualized Educational Program. So it may be that the child is not eligible, and then we also provide some suggestions and tips to work with the student. Or if they're eligible, we develop that IEP. If they're school age, we also have that obligation under IDEA for community child find. So if they're in the school and you suspect that the child might have a disability, or if the teacher suspects, then we have a school psychologist and an IEP team ready at the school to provide that evaluation after the team goes through that evaluation planning process. So we're ready, willing, and able to provide, the services if eligible, and we're ready, willing, and able to talk with the parent at any moment if they suspect their child has a disability. So we added some resources here. There we have a Google site for our district child find website, the Parent Training and Resource Center. It's a wonderful mentor program for parents if they, just want to talk to other parents of students who may have an IEP or have disabilities. We work with them a lot. They bring parents will call and they come into our school district as mentors. They like to call themselves mentors and not advocates. And then South Carolina Parents, South Carolina Thrive, Family Connection South Carolina is also a wonderful agency. BabyNet, Help Me Grow, and First Steps. And that gives a great profile of what you need to be ready for kindergarten. And that is it. Thank you all so much. And I will stick around too if you have questions afterwards.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. I am going to just let you all know, as a parent of 3 boys, I have definitely accessed BabyNet, okay? My first son was exceptional, and, you know, he slept well at night. He didn't cry. He did everything that he was supposed to do. But when my second son came along, Nehemiah, I looked at him and I knew things were going to be a little bit different with Nehemiah. And that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He was that kid that wasn't communicating. He was pointing at whatever he needed. Anytime his dad and I would hug each other, he'd start screaming. I wasn't sure what was happening. And I can remember my mom, who's in this audience, I finally said to her, I'm packing everything up and we're moving to Florida. I need to find a KIPP school for this little boy because he's going to be different. And I was an educator in CCSD and didn't know about BabyNet at that time. I was teaching and didn't know about BabyNet. And finally, someone said, you need to reach out to BabyNet. Nehemiah was he was a year old. When I got into those services, it completely changed my life. Again, as a teacher who already works with students, 6th graders, 7th graders can identify, Ms. Holloway and I would be rocking it out at Mitchell Elementary School, getting our children moved through. But I didn't realize for even our most youngest, our most vulnerable children, we need to look at what services were there for them. And I can tell you, I can stand on the fact that Nehemiah is now an 11th grader, should be a 12th grader. He still has his IEP to this day. He could have graduated on time, but chooses not to move into his correct grade because he loves school so much. And his GPA is a 3.4. And he's in a school with over thousands and thousands of children, and he's doing well. That's not because I did it by myself. That is because we went through BabyNet, got him started, and transitioned. So if you know of families that need support, if you yourself need support with children, then we definitely want to make sure that the wraparound services you heard from Mrs. Allison, that starts with all of our children, and then may need to move to additional services that's provided through the Department of Exceptional Children, those services are there. How many of you, if you're my age, you remember your teacher pulling you into a small group to work with you in your classroom? It wasn't a resource or a lab, but you were pulled into a small group. I saw a hand out there. Anybody else was pulled into a small group to work with their teacher? That's called wraparound services, right? How many of you or your teacher said, hey, I only want you to work on this, this, and this for today? And maybe everybody else was working on something different. Guess what? Those are wraparound services. That's what we're talking about when we look at our children and we decide what's going to work best for them. So now it's your turn. It's your turn. You've heard a lot this evening. You are going to begin to engage with each other. So I'm going to invite Ms. Shingler to come forward to talk about what that engagement is going to look like and the questions that you will now engage in. Ms. Shingler?
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? You will have 5 minutes per question, and I'm going to start with the very first one. So on tonight, what was your aha moment? What was that one moment tonight that the light bulb went off, that you actually got it? So I'll give you 5 minutes to share that information with those persons at your table, and the timer will begin now. The aha moment, the light bulb moment of all that you've heard on this evening.
You guys come join the table. The table is open.
It's the totality. It doesn't matter. The entire evening.
But then I also, I just want to share those small, my daughter kept getting sick. That would have been a really good. Because I didn't know.
I mean, the teachers would want that because they're exposed to some kids.
Yeah, they should have, I think it's more than and they were actually talking about the fluency issues. Very disappointing. They should have known. I'm working on everything. So, and so parents and the doctor will come on screen and nurse will be in there and they can see it, visually just by.
We are halfway there. Lingering.
And then we have the one anything else we can
That's not part of the evaluation process. The evaluation process.
Yeah, because it's like.
I was thinking if they're too young. I wondered what the age was. But then she mentioned school. So I'm thinking, this is part two.
Child find starts at 36 months. Baby Nat is 0 to 35 months.
Okay. So
Okay.
we're
3 years old. Yeah.
that was my thought.
Okay. You've got less than a minute.
So with a lot of the different things, they only
How does that get to the body of the community?
We've got 20 seconds left.
I mean, that information, because that.
Okay. Let's wrap up number 1. Here we go. Number 2, are there any lingering questions? Is there anything that was presented tonight that you still have continued thoughts about? Some questions that you just did not get answered? Are there any lingering questions? Okay, the timer is going to start now. This is for your lingering questions, those questions that you still didn't quite get your answer to. And the timer starts.
It's like a village. The child may be home and they're dealing and communicating one way. Then they go to their auntie's house and it's different. And then the grandparents' house and it's different. I'm thinking different discipline styles,
Techniques.
communication styles. So when the child is young and they get conflicting signals, how does that affect them? And when they're trying to communicate.
I think the strongest force is the one that's most consistent, because what you see repetitively is the consistent part. Is consistent. That has the larger impact because that's what's repetitive.
The reason I bring that up too is my wife watches grandson, and but for them, they're both teachers.
Mhm.
My wife is a teacher, and my grandson's mom is a teacher.
Okay.
Their communication is the same.
Mhm.
But then she also decided to watch the show.
Mhm. Because the approach is different.
The approach is completely.
Mhm.
My wife is respectful of what mom wants.
Mhm. But she implements it differently.
But implements it.
Yeah.
And the child looks at, and I'll put it this way. Just take a pacifier. One household, that's far. Bring the child to my house, they get out of the car,
They give it to you.
drops it on the ground, that's far as not allowed here, and goes on inside. And mom looked at that one, what the heck?
The boundaries have been established and they're reinforced. We're at 2.5.
I'm just wondering, does that affect? Or is that child really that much smarter than most of us?
I think it's the second one.
He said, I got this. I know exactly how to make all this happen.
Mhm.
I think that's do a lot of writing and editing.
Mhm.
That's probably the strongest, one of the strongest.
And it seems like it's more prevalent in boys than girls.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess another one of your questions, I guess maybe I don't know why here. Just one
Well, it popped up on the calendar and I saw it, I said, I need to go. I was gonna be at the restaurant.
Okay. We've got less than a minute remaining. Less than 1 minute.
To bring everybody together to make it. And so the focus on what we want to address, and if we have answers, then we have to search for answers to make it very
Time's up. We're now going to proceed to our third question. Are there any areas or topics needing additional clarification? I noticed at this table here, they were talking about autism and making sure, how do you derive at a true diagnosis? What are those steps? So that could be a lingering question for you that you need additional information on. To truly, what's the complete process for determining what is your child's disability? So that's what I heard here. But once again, we're going to start with question number 3. Are there any areas or topics needing additional clarification? And the timer is going to start now.
So,
I mean, I understand teachers are being trained in school. They're just not getting up to speed. But how do the parents? How do parents?
Or what they do is if you have the training, we tried, let's say one, we tried to have interactions with interventions with students and parents where they can go together and practice these types of practices. So we try in the morning. So we're not there for literacy, where you come in with your students and they have project, this is steps. So you come in and work with your students, you try to try to we try to do things. So we try different times. We also pass out the information, we give out information. The guys they teach me different steps. They try to bring it but we try to figure out the parents to literally come in and participate. So we can send at the beginning of the year, we had the meeting, and we tried to give a lot of information to the different departments to come out where you can. Do you find literally ask questions? So I'll request that.
Sometimes I've been to like open houses where they probably have a room and they have a meeting and have not specifically with the parents, but I don't think it was sort of practices or something like that.
And I would feel comfortable going to somebody else.
What parents said, the students
I used to be a roommate. I would come, I mean, I did I worked at Swing Shirt.
Correct. Got a little more than 2 minutes remaining.
Bring it back up. I call it room dance.
Right.
You had a huge group of men. We used to fix stuff at the school. Before we went in and observe what the kids were doing. We had a great time.
It's not, I think what's happening is it's normal and we need to get back to this groups.
We need more parental buy-in before the students come into the building.
In fact, what the really cool is that you can provide parents. I So.
When I work 3 to midnight, I would wake up in the mornings and then I'd go out to the school. We had built boxes for gardening. Repair, just small things in the classroom the teacher needed repaired. But it made the dad feel like he was needed. And the kids saw us doing it.
And I think, so that's like a language behavior issue because it seems like you said the norm is gone because of that you're trying to take storage.
And then
And then part of the
Now it's time to come back in.
now you have to deal with all the safety stuff. Because we understand the school is trying to create a safe environment. So how do you vet all these parents, you know?
so what you do is
I need some turmeric. Time's up.
Can we get a badge?
Okay. Last question of the night. Did today's session provide you with an opportunity to be heard? Did today's session allow you the opportunity to be heard? Well, tell us what we can do to improve that. Okay. 5 minutes starts now.
To do that. Did I say
I'm not doing that. Oh, no.
and
so as far as the communication, the phone number, I work
Oh, Lord.
So,
With these prepaid phones, they turn on and off.
We're at 2.5 minutes remaining. 2.5 minutes remaining.
So we also try to put in different areas so that it wouldn't be bothered to just test results. So they knew that concerns may be for some people that some
That was the
transportation department. Trying how they obviously we're trying to try to get persons to come.
All right, so I asked Ms. Shingler if it would be okay if I shorten it, just so we won't have you out too late. So we could come back together in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So quickly going around the room, can we discuss what was your aha moment of the day? Can we get a few people just to talk about their aha? I'll tell you for me. No, I'm not going to tell you for me because my table partner and I had a lot of the same aha. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to let her do the sharing. Anyone this side of the room, what's an aha? Yes, we were talking a lot about that as well. This table, what was an aha for you all? Anything you want to share? It's time to get Harmony ready for kindergarten. All right, yes. And Harmony's in what grade right now? Pre-K. All right, all right. This table over here, any ahas for you all? Yes, yes. Table up front.
One of them for me was the mention of the parent mentor program for exceptional kids with developmental issues. I would love to do that for another parent going through struggles that I went through 10 years ago.
Yes.
Let them know everything is going to be okay. There's lots of help available and it's all accessible to you. You just have to know what to ask for.
Yes. So, Ms. Bell, our parent here and I share very much the same story about our children, and she is welcome and open to serve as a parent mentor, just to let parents know you can survive this and you can get through it. It's not as bad as you think. Here.
Okay, so it was the wraparound information that you gave, and then the other one was like how the earliest age groups that you can
Yes.
help for your students if they're identified.
Yes.
A disability.
Yeah.
Or issue.
She stole that from our. But having been at CCSD for 7 years, it surprised me to see that the level of services we have as early as birth.
Early as birth. Yeah. So those services as early as birth on up. Thank you so much. Are there any lingering questions? Any lingering questions? Just popcorn them out. Any lingering questions? How are we going to make sure we have that continual funding, which is always important? Any other questions?
Communications that are conflicting when you have your child going to different family members, like the concept can be different for each family member when they're going there. And then also we were talking about autism, that there's an increase in them, especially with boys as well. And just how does it affect the children when you are in different situations or surroundings?
So making sure those family members understand the various things that are out there for children, wraparound services, what it looks like, how they're interpreting it, but then how do we identify autism and make sure that folks understand that? Yes. Okay. All right. That's really good. Any other lingering questions? All right. Are there any areas or topics needing additional clarification? Are there any additional topics needing addition? Yes. Yes.
What that is, what it entails, all of that.
Yes, homebound. Probably a new term for some people are like, really, what is homebound? How does that help our students, right? All right, and it's medical homebound, right? So it's medical homebound for those who aren't aware, and it will be for medical reasons. A student who's not able to really be at school long-term or intermittent. And then we also have another term, home-based, would be for those behavioral needs that we're addressing through specialized services. So 2 good terms. Thank you so much. Yes. Did you guys hear Ms. Drayton? Chronic illness. All right. Did today's session provide you with an opportunity to be heard? Today's session for me provided me an opportunity to know that everything that I did for my child was right. Like it was okay. And then sometimes I wrestle with that even as a parent with everything that we've gone through. But like to hear all of those baby net and child fire, all those things that came back in 2006, because I had to start this in 2006. So for me, it was confirmation that Shavonna, it is okay. And Nehemiah is okay. Our parent at the table had the same aha. So we really didn't come here expecting a lot, but this session gave us a lot. Anyone else? Did you feel heard today? Did you get an opportunity to be heard? Last time I did a thumbs up, thumbs down, and thumbs to the side. So I'm going to do that again. Thumbs up if you felt heard. Thumbs to the side if you're like, and thumbs down if you're like, y'all better work on it. All right. I'm looking around the room like a good teacher would. And then we have a couple of announcements and a couple of thank yous. So normally I would open with the thank yous for our special members that are here. We want to give some more time for folks to come. We have had some people come in. So I want to recognize first Mr. Calhoun, our Board of Trustees members. He's looking at me on the side of his eye like you really are. Yes. So thank you so much, sir, for being here. Also, Ms. Joy Brown, thank you so much for being here, our D10 constituent board member. And over in the back of this room here, we got Mr. Oscar Douglas with his tailored suit. Thank you so much. Mr. Douglas does a variety of things in the district, but I'm telling you, when we want to know, are we right? Are we in good standing? Is there anything else that we need to look at or should have looked at? Mr. Douglas is the man for that. So thank you so much for being here this evening. You have a survey we're asking you to complete before you leave, but we also have a lot of food. And I don't know if you saw the crazy videos I did, but Chick-fil-A is my favorite. And you have Chick-fil-A tonight. Please take home any extras that you feel would be needed. And I've got a friend in the audience who loves Chick-fil-A, so make sure you get yourself a couple of 3 bags of Chick-fil-A before you leave. Ms. Drayton, what were you saying before I let them go? Yes, and please visit the vendors that are still set up out there if you would like more information. So before you leave, please do the survey and make sure you get extra food. Scan code is what Ms. Ash is saying. Next month, we will be at 75 Calhoun. We're talking about social media issues, the internet, and bullying. Let's be in the room. We're doing it at 75 Calhoun. Hope to see you all there. Thank you. Thank you.